Hello, everybody. This is Drew Duncan, and you guys are listening to the official Sing 57 podcast. To the point, quick topics, no fake debating, some high energy, some calmness, logic. That's the premise of this show. All right. So obviously last night, the CFP, a bit of a letdown, I think, to everybody. I think we all knew that Georgia was probably going to blow out Michigan. I don't really believe that that was a surprise to anybody. Georgia came out. They ran some trick plays. Defensively, they were completely dominant. The game plan from Michigan was nothing special, nothing unique. They didn't do anything preparation-wise. It appeared to me that was going to be soundly different from anything that they did during the season. Georgia was ready. The film study, obviously, they were prepared for them, and they did what they had to do to win that football game. Point blank. Real simple. As far as Cincinnati and Bama goes, look, the Alabama defensive line won that football game. Period. That and some really bad play calling from Cincinnati. But early on in the game, especially on the first drive, they did great. And a couple of times they were able to get close in the scoring range for 6 instead of 3, but they weren't able to capitalize because of batted down footballs by Alabama's defensive line. And at least 2 of those plays would have gone for 6. And by the way, Cincinnati had a play, was it midway through the third quarter, where they were actually going to take a shot deep. But Desmond just did not have enough time to throw the football. They were beating Alabama's cornerbacks left and right all game long. All game long. They were beating their defensive backs. But the Alabama defensive line was phenomenal. You have to give credit where credit is due. And not to make mention of the fact that Cincinnati's quarterback play was just hesitant. I didn't like the fact that they, got an interception. What was the third quarter? Got an interception, and instead of taking a shot deep, hey, let's just run the football. On the first drive, the play calling was immaculate, and the execution was proper. And they should have scored on a slant play, but the ball was batted down. Alabama's defensive line was legit. And Cincinnati's defense, by the way, that scores literally no indication whatsoever of how good they actually played in that football game. They actually played tremendous football. And I know a lot of people, 200 yards rushing, come on, blah, blah. Hey, look, man, when you're on the field for that amount of time, when you're getting, outplayed and your offense is constantly going 3 and out and your offense isn't really doing anything to help your cause, and every time you create a good situation, the offense can't seem to do anything else to back you up a little bit, you're going to get tired mentally, physically, you're getting beat up. You've done everything that you can. They held them to some field goals, obviously. Alabama had a field goal that was missed. The problem was not Cincinnati's special teams. The problem was not Cincinnati's defense. The problem was Alabama's defensive line combined with hesitancy and just staring down receivers from Cincinnati's quarterback play. They weren't able to open up the run game as a result. I think that if I'm Cincinnati, I'm telling my guy, hey, look, we're just going to run a 9 route. I don't care if the play's there or not. I just want you to lob one up, and we just want to keep that defense honest. We want them to back off a little bit because they were daring Cincinnati to run the football. They really were. You have to change something up when you're in a game situation like this. And Cincinnati, I felt their play calling was just a little too conservative. You got to keep defenses honest. And you got to do stuff like that throughout the game to show them we're willing to do something extra. Whether it works or not isn't the point. That's not the point. We're going to do it. Whether you can stop it or not. Because the point is attack. And everybody knows that you want to dictate. Whether you're on the defensive side of the ball or vice versa. You want to be able to dictate It's what Alabama's run game did. They dictated, and that defensive line was the ultimate difference maker in that football game last night. I am bored, obviously, with SEC teams being in the championship game. I'll probably only watch a little bit of Georgia versus Bama in the national championship. Number one, I'm going to have to work my regular. And number two, who cares? I think we're all just a little sick and tired of the SEC. I think if anything last night, many people were rooting for Michigan and Cincinnati. Obviously, Cincinnati being the big underdog story. But I think that a lot of people would have been rooting for Michigan and Cincinnati just so that way there's no SEC teams at all. And I think we're all tired of Alabama. Look, credit Nick Saban. He's the greatest coach in college football history. It's a point-blank situation. He won a title when he was at LSU. He's won numerous titles since he's been at Alabama. He completely turned Bama's program all the way around. Was he the greatest when he was at Michigan State? No, but they were, pretty good. I think they had one season where they were, 10 wins? Obviously, couldn't cut it in the NFL, but if we're talking about just college football coaches, it's Nick Saban. And I don't even think that it's remotely close anymore at this juncture. He understands how to prepare his teams, and they win in these situations. That's all there is to it. In their year, damn near every single year. It's old. We're tired of it, but he's a winner, and I wish that he would just retire so that somebody else would have a chance, But it's obvious that for Nick Saban, it's not about proving anything at this juncture. It's just, I love winning. What was it, Tom Brady? What's your favorite ring? The next one. Yeah, some people just have that mentality, man. They don't care what your opinion is on them, their team. It's the next thing. Period. All right, so today I was watching a little bit of College Game Day. And, there was a situation or a topic that came up, because kids are opting out of bowl games and all that kind of stuff. And, they started talking about kids not just loving, Michigan anymore, being at Michigan or being at Nebraska or whatever the case may be. Curtis Martin talked about how he really did not really love playing football during his Hall of Fame speech. And they were discussing how kids today just don't seem to really love football. But Curtis Martin's point was, I did this because I felt like I had to. There was pressure on me to do this. And as a result, I succumbed to that pressure so that way I could take care of my family. We came from nothing. I gave them something through my athletic prowess. And with NIL deals and all that stuff going on right now, believe me when I tell you, the pressure is going to be insurmountable. Will Alabama be a team that's able to keep up with that now? Maybe, maybe not. But I know one thing. A lot of people bagged on Oklahoma's former coach for jumping ship and going to USC. California was the first one to say you can make money off of your name. We are eventually going to see a huge, huge shift with this. There are going to be people out there who can write a big enough check. And when you're somewhere like a USC, it's California, beautiful weather. There's a lot to do out there. Because I'm going to tell you something. I used to live in Oklahoma. I lived about 20 minutes away from Norman. There is nothing to do. Now, you're going to be able to make money and be in California. If you're an 18, 19-year-old kid and your family's putting pressure on you the same way that they did Curtis Martin, and it's always been that. Wasn't it LaDainian Tomlinson, if I remember right, whose mother demanded that he write a check for $5 million or something to that effect for raising him? And look, I kind of understand where Kirk and those guys were coming from. There's a lot of cloud chasing that goes on now. They were like, kids aren't as passionate about it anymore. And, Look, there is clout chasing that happens. But clout chasing happens on every level. And it's always been a thing because, let's be honest, I'm 38 years old. When I grew up, I truly loved football. But I think I loved it way more than a lot of the kids that I played around. And, the thing about it is, I loved it because of, the passion that my dad had. And the more I watched the old games and the old tapes and studied, the more I loved it, the more I played it, the more I loved it. But there were a lot of kids that I really believe were just clout chasing. It's always been a thing to clout chase. We're going to go to college. Kids are like, man, I'm going to Notre Dame. I got a recruitment letter. It's a thing. It's always been a thing. But let's be honest. If somebody wants to opt out because they don't think that the Sugar Bowl or Rose Bowl has any more meaning now because of the college football playoff, you got to understand the kid side of the story too. And that is, I don't want to blow my ride. And I know that Kirk was just like, hey, look, if you just want to go to the league, then fine, play a season, prove you're an NFL caliber person, and then just work out. Okay, but you and I both know that it's not just about getting buff in a gym. All right? There's a lot of people that are gym rats, and believe me when I tell you, they wouldn't know how to block, they wouldn't know how to tackle, they wouldn't know how to throw, they wouldn't understand coverages or packages, they wouldn't know a zone read from anything else, right? That's not what's going on here. You've got to get the reps. And I know Herb Street was like, well, if the bowl game doesn't matter, then why does the Akron game matter? The Akron game matters because you are at that time still proving that you're NFL caliber. By the time you get to this end of the season, you've already done all the work that you need to in order to show you're an NFL person. How many times has somebody played in a bowl game and got hurt or came back for their senior season and they got hurt? And then all of a sudden it's like the NFL's looking at them like, no. You had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback at OU because of 2 bad knees not even get drafted. Not even get drafted. If you honestly believe that nobody should sit out because they don't want to blow their ride because it's all about the passion of the game, it's not. We were told that we should play for the passion of the game and for our high schools and universities and logos and blah, 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 blah. That's never what football's ever been about. Football has always been about clout chasing and money. And these kids that are coming up now understand the value of themselves. We were told just to put up with it in our generation and the generation before and just work hard and don't complain. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. No. They understand that their signature means something even at the age of 18. And why should anybody who's 20 or 21 years old, a junior in any college or university, who knows that, hey, there's a good chance that they're going to be in the NFL, why should they risk anything for their university when their university would replace them in a heartbeat? He gets injured? Whatever. There's been another guy waiting. I know it's only week 3, but we got this other kid. Good luck to you, son. You don't believe me? Ask Maurice Clarett. See what he says about getting hurt and getting played and what universities really care. Look, I get tired of this free education argument. If it was about education, what was it, Michigan University, right? A couple of years ago, 15 games of basketball in 22 days. What was it, 7 or 8 of those were on the road? All that time away from class. And you are going to sit there with a straight face and tell me that it's all about their education? They need to stop complaining and do their schoolwork? Ah, come on. Not when the university's got Coca-Cola sponsorship money. Don't tell me that going through this struggle is a rite of passage. Because you know damn good and well that if you had that same opportunity, you would take it. No, I don't want an ideal, man. I want to go over here just because, my education's too important. If that's the way that you truly think, and if that's the route that some of you truly took, then that's okay. I'm not knocking either one. A lot of people see their future in different ways, and some of them would be more focused on, hey, if I go to Lafayette, or if I go to, a smaller school, there's somebody there that'll probably, help me make a little money on the side, but I'll get a primo education over here for what I want to do for life after sports, because I know I'm probably not going to make it to the league. But even then, if you're a good enough player to be at somewhere like Bama, Auburn, OU, Oklahoma State, whatever, if you're good enough and you can make a lot of money, and while you're in school, take some business classes, learn how to invest it, how's that not a win-win? I just don't understand why we constantly knock other people for their choices. It's their life. And they're already getting enough pressure from home, from moms and dads and uncles and whomever else. Go ask Cam Newton, right? They're doing all these things. They're getting all this pressure. And then somebody has to go on television and go, you just don't love football. You don't love the sport the way that I did growing up. You're just not as passionate as I am. Really? I guess sometimes people forget how difficult it is to be a student athlete. I mean, seriously. Class, GPA has to be at a certain point. All the media attention, not hardly ever being able to get to a class because everybody wants to stop, pat you on the back, or the smack they want to run to you because the team lost the game. And I know that a lot of people are worried about the college football playoff making the other bowl games meaningless. There are about probably 25 meaningless bowl games. Why are teams with 4-8 records and 5-7 records playing in bowl games to begin with? That doesn't even begin to make sense. I mean, seriously. Why are there so many bowl games to begin with? You don't need half of them. And they should expand the college football playoff. If you think that the dominance of the SEC would continue through a 16-team expansion, you're sadly mistaken. There's going to be somebody out there that can create a matchup problem. They're not necessarily better, but they could create a matchup problem. Look at Texas A&M. Are they better than Alabama even though they won that game this year? Look where they ended up and look at where Bama is. No. They just created a matchup problem. Schematically and matchup-wise, it wasn't a good fit for Alabama. Yeah, sure, the game ended close, but don't forget, at one point, A&M was up pretty good on Bama in that football game. Same thing with Auburn. Defensively, for the most part in that game, they created matchup problems for Alabama. Just offensively, Auburn was really the wrong team to play for about 58 minutes. But the point of what I'm saying is, it would probably stop. Not necessarily that it would, but probably. But you got 131 teams in Division I college football. Okay? Number one, I don't think everybody should get a trophy. So again, that's to me why a lot of bowl games are so meaningless. Number two, the playoffs always make something else irrelevant regardless. The regular season doesn't matter in the NFL to a lot of people. A 10-6 football team can go on to win the Super Bowl. We saw it with the New York Giants. We saw it with the Green Bay Packers. I think to some level, playoffs will always make something else a little more irrelevant. But if you expand it, Well, you get to have your Rose Bowl. You get to have your Sugar Bowl. Things are supposed to change. It doesn't always have to be Big Ten versus Pac-12. That ideology gets bored after a while, and the fact that you respect the repetition. And look, and I know what part of what they were saying was because my pop missed it too. You woke up on January 1st, all the big games, the Orange Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl, they were all on. You watched every single game, and by the end of the day, you knew who the national champion was. All right, but we're talking about a day and age where there were 60, 70, 80, 90 football teams in Division I college football. Believe it or not, 131 teams in football, that's a big amount. That's a huge amount, as a matter of fact. And at some point, why should Cincinnati have to go undefeated in order to be in a college football playoff? They shouldn't have to. After all, Alabama doesn't have to. Michigan doesn't have to. Georgia didn't have to. What does being undefeated really ever mean other than it just being a brag? We're undefeated, bro. We damn sure should be here. Talk to Utah about being undefeated and what it does for you in college football. Talk to Auburn about being undefeated and what it did for them back in the early 2000s. Ask Boise State. Nothing. Other than we're undefeated. Ask Central Florida. It did nothing other than we're undefeated. That was it. I don't tell me that the old ways are better, because they're not. You're upset because the thinking changed and a group and generation of kids came up and said, you know what? I'm really not going to let you make me live like that if I don't want to, bro. I'm not going to sit around, starve to death, while my coach rolls up in a BMW. For the love of the university, the same university that if I got hurt, couldn't play tomorrow, would have another guy here and wouldn't bother giving me so much as a phone call probably after the first week of me being gone. Get real. We always talk about, I'm sure you see those posts on social media, right? Where they're like, don't give so much to your job. If you died tomorrow, you'd be replaced in a month, blah, 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 blah. It's okay for us to have that mentality for some reason, but not a 19-year-old? Are you jealous? Are you secretly just jealous? Stop. Just stop it, okay? Let them do them. If they want NIL deals, if they want to make their own money outside, if they don't want to play in a bowl game because they want to go to the league and not get hurt, they've already proven, they've already done all the work that they need to. Let it be. To the fans, the game will still matter, especially places like Ohio State. Come on. How long has it been since Baylor's been in a bowl game of this much meaning? I understand where they're coming from, but at some point, you have to understand that things change. I understand where they're coming from, but at some point, you have to understand that things change and evolve, and they're supposed to. We can't be the same damn thing forever. Because after a while, knowing that you're going to wake up on January the 1st and not see another college football game after that, that gets really boring and old too. Because a lot of those games were blowouts. And a lot of times, teams will be in those bowl games that didn't belong there. Think about it. Some 8-3 football team is in. Okay. Why are they in the Rose Bowl? All this talk about undefeated teams and Cincinnati, and they got to be undefeated to get there. All this talk about meaning. Anywho, as the saying goes, you do them. You do you, and they'll do them. All right, everybody. I'm Drew Duncan. This has been Sync 57. Comment below. Tell me I'm an idiot. It's fine. Have a great new year, everybody.